Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.
All right, we are back in the Detroit is Different podcast studios. It's been a long time since Detroit is Different has done anything, and hopefully everybody is staying safe. Not just because of COVID-19, but just because self-preservation is a way of life, and we need to be safe, healthy, and on our heels. And speaking of safe, healthy, and on our heels, I brought back my brother, somebody I look up to, even though we in like the same generation and gotta get down. Does a lot of work, black entrepreneur and father, and someone that is a resource to the community. Khary Williams, how you feeling?
I feel good, man. I feel good. It feels good to be back to talk to you, man.
Man.
Detroit is different.
And we're going to start right where we kind of left off. And I'm going to cut and let people know. Our last interview, we spoke a lot about police brutality.
Right.
And situations that you faced and some of the things you see. It kind of went from the whole situation where you talked about witnessing what happened with the murder of Bugs from D12 or the Dirty Dozen on Belle Isle, and just the static that police officers have had contentious relationships with us as black men for a long time. And you told stories of being a teenager to a young man in your 20s to even, we didn't really get into today, but just that tumultuous relationship. And even from your business and your business's standpoint and everything that went on with the Wildermere, as you opened up a place in the community that people could use as a rental facility for birthday parties, for baby showers, for events, for christenings, for graduations, and just a community resource where you were providing block party assets. You did some fireworks, and with the police supporting the business, the police also were enforcing shutting your business down as well.
True. That's
true. I really want to talk about the relationship that you have as an entrepreneur, knowing that what you faced in running a business, and how we need to look at running a business in the city, knowing that sometimes the city itself may not necessarily be a resource, and the enforcement ring for the city going against us will be the police force.
Yeah, sometimes it may be a hurdle as well as an asset. So it's a mixed bag, because I've just take COVID-19, for example.
Yes, sir.
I received from DGC financing that was necessary to keep our business open. But also in the same bag, just a couple of days ago, we were celebrating a memorial for my uncle, and the police showed up and gave us $1,000 tickets for, I don't know, let me not say $1,000. They gave us tickets. They issued us tickets for social distancing tickets. So it's a mixed bag. Sometimes they're on your side, sometimes not. So
okay, so let's talk a little bit about your location. You have the Wildermere location, which is located right in the heart of the community. Yeah,
right there, 6 Mile and Wildermere, between just east of Livernois, right there by University of Detroit Mercy College.
Now, being in that location, you have had back and forth. Let's talk about some of the interactions you've had with the police in opening this business.
Right. So, like I said, it's always a mixed bag, right? So, as you know, we took a vacant and abandoned building, which we have a lot of in Detroit, and we turned that mixed-use vacant building into a space for people to enjoy. We spent out of our own pockets life savings to create space in this community. And we started up a Taco Tuesday where we were selling tacos out of the retail space, and we were even serving police officers and firefighters and so forth, and so politicians. They were all showing up. It was a success, and because we didn't have all of our licensing and all of that together, the police, they shut it down. The city shut it down. So, it's a mixed bag. We were sad that it was shut down, but we understood because we didn't have everything together, right? So that's how that happened.
So as you were getting this space together and the mix of the licensing, what was the interaction? How were you notified that you needed to cease and desist? What was
they just showed? It was almost like a raid. Almost, they showed up, but they were kind. But they showed up like, man, y'all can't sell these tacos anymore. So because the police were eating there as well, so they didn't really want to do it, but they ended up doing it. They had to. And then a little bit later, during the social, maybe cut a year, the other day, a couple of days ago, the police showed up at one of our memorials and were issuing tickets for social distancing, right? And my frustration with the police officers, who were respectful and everything, but they were issuing tickets that you have to pay and that you have to be responsible for, was that I see they selectively enforcing these laws, right? So you see people down in Lansing screaming in police officers' faces and no social distancing, and then cut here to inner city Detroit, and we're at a memorial for someone who passed away, and they're saying, okay, well, social distancing. You're not social distancing.
Now, this is where some of the contention lies, because you would think that you can walk over to an officer, say, all right, this is a memorial, that's why we're here,
right?
Thank you for that notification. At least give you some pre-warning,
right?
What was the exchange to even walk over to the officer before tickets were disseminated to people mourning the passing of someone?
So they showed up, and we were, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know if we were within or outside of the executive, I believe it's an executive order from the governor. I don't know if we were within it or outside of it, but they just showed up and started issuing tickets. They gave out 3 tickets. They gave out 3 tickets. One to me, one to my sister, and one to my the other owner of the Wildermere with me, my co-partner.
So these tickets, getting a social distancing ticket, what was the cost of this ticket?
I don't know what the cost is yet. I don't know what the cost. I haven't been to court. They're just tickets saying that we're violating section 2020 of what penal code or of the executive order or whatever it is. So I've heard that it was $1,000. That's why I don't want to say it's $1,000. I have to find out what the ticket is once courts open up or whatever.
And to give you this ticket, the police officer violated social distancing, because I'm guessing he walked over to you and gave you the ticket.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
so it's things like this that make us angry. It's things like this that, the logic, like, how do we apply the logic?
So I think the big thing is, at least from my standpoint, is that they're selectively enforcing these laws.
And that is one of the biggest challenges altogether.
Right.
Because there's so many laws on the books, even when you talk about being licensed to serve food to people.
Yeah.
And what does that licensing entail? The red tape. And this can stranglehold a business from getting going.
True.
And engaging.
Right.
As you're in a community, when you think about right there, with so many, I mean, we're 85% black, but that community is probably even like 95% black.
Right.
So if you're serving food, how far will people have to travel to get to another black restaurant?
You know what? That's crazy that you brought that up, because
to turn their money
they have to
over
go
with
up to
our
Baker's Lounge, probably a mile down, Cuzzo's a mile down. But the thing about it is there isn't a lot of black-owned restaurants right next door to each other. So you would have to travel to get to the next black-owned establishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here we are on this island as a black-owned business, and as you said, we're being this red tape that everybody has to jump through, but it's being selectively enforced
Yes.
on certain people, right? So it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But how do we? What's the solution? How do we clear that up?
And that's where I'm talking. This conversation is kind of starting from, as in the shadows of the murder of George Floyd, many demonstrations have sparked up,
right,
on multiple levels. So there are
economic and
organizers protesting that are marching. It's protesters that are chanting. Some protesters are leading organized protests where speakers speak. Some people are frustrated and shouting their frustrations towards police officers when they see them. Some people have what they call vandalized property in businesses. Some people are what they label as looting businesses. It's a mix of this. And then even in these shadows, police officers are still taking aggressions towards citizens.
right, yeah. So I just it's crazy because we're having this conversation. You called me to have this conversation because just yesterday, I had a conversation with a police officer in Southfield. So we set up, and this police officer, me and some friends, some black friends, we were just standing around having a conversation and working out in a park. And this white police officer wanted to have a conversation about
Race
the
relations.
experience and the black experience and our experience here in America, right? He wanted to know, like, and he had a police officer's perspective on things, right? He was a nice guy.
Now this is crazy because for me personally, as a black man, I gotta stop. If I'm in a suburb and a white cop approaches me,
right,
I'm shook.
Yeah, man,
I have high anxiety.
That's crazy because that is exactly
tone when he even approached.
So exactly right. I hope we got time, right? Because he pulls in, right, and we see him pulling in, and just the anxiety that it's 10 of us, kids under 12, 40 and 60-year-olds, because we're working out. It's about 10 or 15 of us just working out. We work out at the playground every day. And he pulls in, and the tone just shrank, right?
Yeah.
Because as black people, and I've spoken to many black people in my life, and it's something about the police, and it's not even just white police. It's just police presence. Period.
Yes.
It's anxiety.
Yes.
That shouldn't be, right?
But we have reason for these anxieties.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm getting
that
to.
are personal experiences.
Exactly.
Like what you said. I mean, technically, you're coming off a couple days from getting a social distancing ticket, so you could be thinking like, oh shit,
here goes social distancing.
This could be another
again.
social distance. And like, what, am I gonna get double charged with social distancing?
Here
like,
we go.
Is that two strikes?
That's exactly what we were thinking. We like, here we go with this bullshit. So we got our tools in hand, our cell phones. We ready to start shooting. Yeah. Right? Because that's our first line of defense. But I got a story like this. This has a interesting ending, which may be a prevailing ending. So he comes in, he wants to talk, and we can have that conversation about what we talked about. But the most glaring part, we're in a park where mostly black, almost like again 90%. We're in Southfield. What
park in Southfield? Can you
Inglenook Park in Southfield.
So that's
it's a 12-mile and Lasser.
Okay.
Right. So this police officer comes in, he stares out. Nice guy, friendly, didn't want to give us social distancing tickets. He just wanted to talk about the black experience and how we felt. And he felt like the people that was around town looting and protesting, they were doing too much. But he also felt like the officer needs to be locked up. Okay, that's fine. I have a different opinion about the looters, but we could talk about that later too. Also, but what happened was 2 older black women walked up, leaned on his car with their cell phones in hand, and said, look dead at us. Are y'all all right? Brothers, y'all all right? And that police officer was taken all the way aback. They ignored him. He was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Because the ladies came up to defend us.
Yes.
Because and I had to explain to him, whether he internalized it or not, that those women are looking out for their brothers.
Yeah.
Right? They are looking out for what they see in us as a brother, a son, a nephew, a cousin, and they want to make sure that we go home alive. I don't know if he internalized that or not. I also spoke to him about my previous experiences, which I think went over his head. So we're talking about the looters downtown and in other cities, and he's like, you know, and his response was, see, this is one man dead and then all of this. And then I had to explain to him, this is not one man. This is Freddie Gray. This is Philando Castile. This is Oscar Grant, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. Like, what you see in this broken window is not Floyd. What is it? Floyd? George Floyd. This is not just George Floyd. This is decades, centuries
in
Detroit.
And furthermore, the context of it, and not just, and it's sad because I interact with a lot of black people that have given this sentiment, but usually it's a sentiment that most officers that I've talked to always think it's a context for it. As right now, I'm seeing more and more stories about George Floyd's daughter, which is great,
right?
And his friend, and you even mentioned, I love sports, Steven Jackson.
Yeah.
But I'm also seeing the character assassination of who George Floyd is starting right now too.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, and I don't even want to speak that into life, but this is what happens.
Yeah.
The character assassination of let's speak on Trayvon Martin. He's a teenager.
Yeah. And what was the young boy in Ohio?
Freddie Gray, right?
No, in Ohio, they in 1 second they shot that boy.
Oh, in the Walmart with the toy gun?
Nope, not him. And I get it. It's just so many that they get scrambled in my head.
Yeah, very good.
But
point.
it's a very difficult social issue.
As if police officers, and that's really kind of where I'm starting this point of view, as you are the guest that I've had that spoke more to this, and it touched. We had a really strong connection, and I remember from our last interview, a lot of people were like, man, you really don't like police officers. And it's people that believe I'm very militant.
Right.
But I think I'm more nationalist.
Yeah.
I'm more optimistic. That's what makes me angry, because I wonder, it's like, how can you not understand what we're saying?
Right.
You know, it's not even just like when Ice Cube and them was saying, fuck the police.
Man.
It's not just the movie Do the Right Thing. It's like, this stuff happens. You just think that black men have a predisposition to criminality when it's so many laws on the books. All the stuff that white men are doing are attributed to their culture.
Yeah. So our perspectives are informed by our life experiences, right?
True.
So, and what I'm noticing, just speaking to that cop the other day, I'm talking to a white cop who grew up in Redford because he told us where he was from.
Yeah.
It's hard, if not almost impossible, to get this person to see things through my eyes.
Yes.
Through my life experiences. And that's what we're up against. We're screaming from the top of the mountain, out loud with the megaphone. Man. We are being abused.
Murdered.
And because their experiences with police officers is totally different.
Yes.
They cannot understand.
Yes.
Right?
And furthermore.
So I'm saying, listen, I told that police officer right there. He's like, listen, and we're not against you all. And I had to stop him. I said, hey, brother, listen. My first time in handcuffs was when I was 13. And I could just see it just going over his head, right?
Yeah.
It's just going over his head what I'm trying to express to him. Like, I was in cuffs at 13 with a gun to my head from a police officer.
Yes.
It's a black police officer. Because I'm of the opinion, like, the white officer on a black victim is the salacious kind of media source or media that they want to see, they want to portray on television for ratings. But the black officer on a black victim is much more common occurrence, if you ask me. And if you go into the neighborhoods that I'm from, and ask if they really get real with you and say, man, what's your experience? What was that cop? The one that threw you up against the wall? And I don't think that cop really understood what I was trying to say. Like, man, my experience, you want me to be comfortable around you when at 13 I had a gun against my head and I was taken into custody. I was 14 and this happened. When I was 21, this happened. And when I was 27, this happened. You right? And so you want me to just erase all of those experiences and just take and start afresh. It doesn't work like that.
And furthermore, it's almost like he was taken aback that those two black women walking up saw and were afraid of him.
Right.
The same way that I believe most of these officers are afraid of us as black men.
Yeah.
So or the element of black men scare them. The element of police scare us. Yeah. The difference is we don't go through we're not civil servants as black men. We're just citizens.
Right.
We're like, it's no training. It's no, but the idea of the criminality of what we are, just the threat we pose, our presence alone, as you said, 13. You know, like we really got to think in you say he's an officer from Redford in Southfield. As people are complaining so much about these protesters coming from out of town here. Yeah. Most of these police officers don't live in Detroit either.
Right.
And it's not just Detroit with these residency problems. I don't know Minneapolis law, but I guarantee it's probably the same.
Same thing.
These officers know you can be a cop in the big city for like 5 years and then go to wherever the hell, Michigan, and be a chief or a sergeant or a...
But Khary, check this out, bro.
Yeah.
At the Wildermere, when they came and gave me the social distancing tickets, they issued 3. 5 cops showed up. 4 white, 1 black. In an 85% black city.
Yes.
What the fuck? What the fuck is that all about? Like, what is this?
I'm going to give you the rhetoric that they say, and I want you to respond to this. But they say that black people don't want to be cops.
Okay.
I've heard that. I've also heard that black people can't pass the tests, especially the drug tests, which I question that because I think a lot of these drug tests test for marijuana, which they know is more used than black people.
Right.
And they don't test for
but
any
the thing
of those
about it, man,
everybody and shit.
Black people just statistically do not use drugs in any. We use drugs at the same rate at which we don't overuse. We're not. If you look at the statistics, we use on par with white and brown, and everybody's using drugs. So that's out the window. If you ask me, that's out the window. Black people do not disproportionately use narcotics. We may use different types of narcotics as other people in our community, and less crystal meth and more marijuana and other drugs, and they may be more this and that. But black people do not disproportionately use narcotics.
Yes.
The test, I don't know. Maybe the test can be culturally biased, or maybe I don't want to make excuses. If we're not passing the test, that's a problem. We need to pass the fucking test. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to blacks don't want to be cops. I'm not sure how true or not true that is. I know there's a negative connotation dealt to cops in our community because of the way black people are treated by police officers. So if someone like me, right? Why would I don't want to be a cop. You know, I don't want to be a police officer. Police officers are dangerous. Police officers are mean. They are bad. When I'm growing up at 13, I got a gun to my head. I got a raid at my home from a police officer from my parents. And it's just all these different experiences. It's nothing positive for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that probably translates for for a particular segment of our community that's similar to me. Like, I don't want to be a police officer because why would I want to be a police officer? I hate police officers.
Yeah. And in this contentious, I mean, that's what they say, but I do think that more effort can be made to get black people open to being on the force.
Yeah, I think it's...
Especially in a city with so much unemployment like Detroit.
But the thing about it, does that solve... When you have black officers kicking black folks' ass?
I think what you just said definitely is real. I mean, we've said, I mean, the KRS-One song, Black Cop.
Right.
You know, shout out BDP. It's real. because it's more than like the training, but it's also like like some type of accountability that goes beyond the police board.
Yeah.
You know, right now it's the big fight, right? I'm unsure if you're familiar. That's fighting the police board and even our current police chief of Detroit, Chief Craig.
Right.
And facial recognition. And I'm against it big time because a lot of the facial recognition is wrong.
Yeah.
But the same way that cops can't be questioned, now they're going to bring in technology and say you can't question this technology.
Right. Yeah.
Where so much of this is still so focused on protecting property instead of creating an environment and community where people aren't doing these survivalist like crimes in the first place.
Right.
You know, I don't know if you saw the post I put up where it was a break-in next door at my house, and I let people know I was slipping.
Yeah.
My slipping was I didn't have my lights on. I think they were looking to strip the house.
Right.
It was kind of scary because it was like 4 cars outside my house, and I got so many different responses. But I'm happy I didn't pull the gun. I called the cops myself because of insurance reasons, and I wanted to have I wanted to have it documented and timed out just in case it is somebody on the block to know that I will at least call the police. But even in the back of my mind, I still like
you ain't even want to call
weaponizing the police officers.
Yeah. Man, I don't even call the police. Listen, bro, people break because like I said on the last Detroit is different that you brought me on. Man, a police officer has never done anything for me. Like they never, when my bike was stolen, they never found it. They never rescued a kitten out of a tree for me. They never got my furniture back that they stole. It's only administrative, right? Yeah. It's okay, somebody broke into the house, somebody broke into the car. In order for me to avail myself of my insurance policy, I have to come talk to you all. But other than that, I have this much expectation of you. I don't expect you to go find the criminal. You don't even go look.
No.
I don't expect you to get my things back. I don't expect any kind of justice when it comes to police officers, right? And that's the attitude. Rightly or wrongly, that's my heart when it comes to law enforcement.
It's not just you. It's many of us.
And they like, it's not just snitching. They like, oh, y'all don't like black people. They got this no snitching rule. Man, it's no snitching is, I don't even feel like dealing with the police. Is if I call them, they may end up putting me on the ground, and I'm the one that called you. I may end up. It's a total negative experience, or a potential for negative experience that other people in other communities don't have to deal with, and they can't understand when I'm telling you I'm not gonna call the police officer because it could be a negative experience, right? It can turn negative, and they're like, huh? You don't trust the police? What are you talking about? Because they never been face down in the pavement, right? So just like with George Floyd, people are like, we're focusing on the most salacious act, the death, like he died. But when I really dig into it, I say George Floyd should not have even ever been in handcuffs in the first place. And if he was a 65-year-old white man in Birmingham or whatever the Birmingham of Minnesota is, he would have never been in handcuffs in the first place.
If he was a white man with an assault rifle
he would not
through the state capitol,
he would not have been in handcuffs for allegedly a past $20 bill that they couldn't even place on him. At least I haven't seen any. This $20 bill thing is like, where the fuck does this even come from, right?
That is exactly what his friend Steven Jackson says. It's a lot saying that the $20 bill wasn't even counterfeit. And I mean, this.
But is even if it was, bro, are you saying that they walked in and walked out, said, okay, you're in handcuffs? No. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That we're not treated the same. And like I tell people, man, we're fighting for equality. How simple and crazy is that, right? That we're fighting for equality. We're not fighting for, as opposed to fighting for superiority. It's like, okay, we're fighting to overtake you. No, we're fighting for equality. Yeah. And people are condemning people in the streets for breaking windows. Fuck them windows.
I mean, it's it's kind of, you know, what Biggie say on 10 Crack Commandments. You know what I'm saying? Number 9 should have been number 1 to me. If you ain't getting back, stay the fuck from police.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's a contentious relationship to the point where it's some cops I know that don't even reveal their cops.
Yeah.
That almost hide the fact that they are police officers. Yeah. Where I feel like they could ingratiate themselves with it and possibly try to reconnect with the community what's going on. Because the George Floyd, yes, you're right. It's no reason to handcuff somebody that early in the morning just because of a fake 20. Or
the alleged fake 20.
Or
even if there was a fake 20. Yeah. How do you know it was coming from him, cops, right? Like,
and that's the danger of, like, if a person's watching this saying to themselves, well, it's just one officer that drove up, but we know how fast that one officer can become 7 squad cars.
But listen, Khary, that's one of the biggest problems. See, people are focusing on the death, but there's these everyday microaggressions from police that we suffer from every day.
Yes.
The stopping, the pulling out of the car, the putting in handcuffs, the placing under arrest for nothing, for no probable cause, those small, what are seen to be small injustices that add up, and then one day somebody's murdered and everybody just goes bananas and their heads explode because you can't believe that someone got murdered on social media.
Yeah.
But if we stop all these microaggressions, if they were held accountable for pulling me out of the car unjustly.
Yes.
I wasn't supposed to be out of the car in the first place. You got my license registration. Now I'm out of the car. Now I'm under arrest. Now you put me in handcuffs.
Yeah.
You don't find anything, then you send me on my way.
Yeah.
You were wrong. Police officer, you were wrong. You should be held accountable for that. When you start holding these police officers accountable, so I'm not even in a position where I'm so-called resisting arrest or really standing up for my right to not be arrested without probable cause, right?
Yeah.
So they say, okay, get out of the car. No, you're resisting arrest.
Yes.
No, I'm standing up for my right.
And the sad thing right now, at my age now, interacting with police officers, I'm so by the book and square to save my life.
Right.
You know?
But to me,
I don't get pulled over as much as I was when I was younger.
Right.
And I think
don't either.
The younger, it's like they saw that young black man in the entity. I mean, it was like clockwork. I want to say from the age of 17 to maybe 24, I would get pulled over 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And every time I would get some type of bullshit ticket at worst. I'm not in the game or anything, but
they'll give you a ticket.
And it can escalate from, like what you say, pull over, license registration, they go back, and then they give you the ticket.
Right.
Great situation.
Yeah.
Worst situation. Why don't we get out the car? Get out the car, and then you stand on the hood. But almost like when you're dealing with the cop, and then you got the other cop in the car that's drawing the firearm on you, you get so nervous of like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to stand? How am I supposed to stand? It's like, hey, everybody, put your hands on the top of the, put your hands on the top of the roof.
I hate
shit
that.
Like that.
That I am of the opinion that we should not teach our kids how to be timid around law enforcement. We should not. I think that's counterproductive. I think. Now, we can have a discussion. People will disagree.
I really want to get into that because I really don't know.
We're making we need to stand up for our rights. Stand up for justice. Oh, a police officer comes up to the car, put your hands like this, get down, be nice, say sir, say no. Stand up for your rights. Be assertive. Tell this cop you're not standing for any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
Understand your rights. Know your rights.
Yeah.
And that's how you survive. And if you don't survive, that's how you help the culture move forward. You see these white folks, they coming up, they so confident around police. They got the rifles and everything, like yelling in their face. Where we're teaching our kids, mind you, these are people that we pay tax dollars. You understand? We are citizens in this nation. They are supposed to be serving and protecting us. We say it as if it's cliche, but it's not. This is real shit.
Yeah.
These are liberties that we're talking about, right? And we're saying be timid when asserting your liberty. Fuck that. I'm talking about live free or die. Now, if any other race, any other nationality, especially Caucasian, says live free or die, they're applauded. Black man, live free or die. Bust windows. I am mad as hell. Tear this shit down because I would rather die than to live oppressed. You are, as a black man, a radical, and you need to be snuffed the fuck out. And that is not right. Right.
Now, when you say that training for police, because you have a daughter,
right?
You have younger cousins, and you have young dudes that look up to you, interact with all the time at the Wildermere. I mean, y'all employ like some, y'all employ dudes from the neighborhood,
right?
So it's tough because that could be survival.
Yeah. In
that, but even when you act timid, you still can get murdered as well.
Right.
Because in that standing up for your rights, the most I used to do, because anybody that's ever gotten a ticket, you can't read that shit. You don't even know what they put on it. Right. So it's like, hey, what is this? And it's like, you'll find out when you go to court.
Yeah.
Let alone it's like other things happening in the back of my mind now, because because there's so many black people in Detroit, we pay so much in car insurance already.
Right. It's ridiculous.
You get caught for a moving violation, now your car insurance goes up.
Right.
You're already, if you're young, you're paying probably $350 a month. For people that's listening outside the city of Detroit, if you're young in the city of Detroit, perfect driving record, and when I say young, meaning under the age of 30, you're paying $350 a month for car insurance.
This shit is ridiculous.
And that's straight bullshit, general, no fault. The cheapest insurance you can find, you're paying $350 a month.
And the car ain't even worth $350.
And the car is you're paying more for car insurance than the goddamn car. You get a moving violation at $350, probably gonna go up to like $425. You get 2 moving violations. Now you probably looking at like certain car insurance.
Now you riding around without insurance at this point.
They're not even gonna want to get car insurance
at this point.
And you ride around dirty, as we say. And that's why most people don't have licenses in Detroit. People think that, like, wow, look at these irresponsible people, because car insurance costs so goddamn much. And you're right. You're riding dirty now.
Right.
And now you're riding dirty and the cop pulls you over. It changes your whole disposition. And most of these police officers know we riding dirty because of these racist laws with car insurance.
Right.
And they go hand in hand.
Yeah. It definitely does. Right.
And it shackles you to even certain communities.
Yeah.
To go to the suburbs when you do something.
Let me tell you something. I went to law school, passed the bar first time, right?
Uh-huh.
I did not get my license, my law license, because it's a process called character and fitness, right?
Yeah.
And one of the big issues with my character and fitness was my driving record. Riding around with no insurance and all of these things that you're talking about. So I effectively, among other things, I don't want to mislead the Detroiters different audience. We could talk about that on another day, but I did not really get my law license to practice law.
Yeah.
Partially because of my driving record and driving without insurance and all these different issues that you're talking about.
Really?
Or just not being able to afford no damn car insurance.
But it's still being black.
Right.
Because the car insurance is high
in our black neighborhoods.
Exactly.
But also people stealing cars in our neighborhood too fucking much.
There is car theft.
Right.
But the argument when it comes to car theft that I always say, and it makes it ridiculous, is Chicago people not paying as much in car insurance.
Yeah.
New York people don't pay this much in car insurance. LA people not paying this much in car insurance.
Yeah.
Newark, New Jersey may be the place where they steal the most cars on earth.
At all, yeah.
And they're not paying this much in car insurance. So what the fuck is going on with Detroit other than this is the most black populated city in America?
I don't know, man.
And I know they say the whole thing of if you get into a car accident and you have a head injury, we'll pay for you to get out the hospital. We'll pay for your hospital, all of that shit. But the reality is something happens to your car, You fighting tooth and nail to get anything from these goddamn insurance companies.
Oh yeah, man. So
it's one of those things that you're paying so much for it, where it's unreasonable, to pay $350 a month for car insurance for a car that's not even worth that in a year. Where if it does get totaled out,
it's
they're not even going to give
that.
that to you in value.
Right. But they paying for your. It's the no fault law, and that's what they say. That's been a contentious issue.
I know that's what they say it is.
Yeah.
But to me, I would argue they not caring about keeping us alive in the first place either.
Right. Yeah.
Because one of the questions they always ask is like, if that's the case, then why do I always have to tell my car insurance company whether I got health insurance or not? Why do they want to know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you just care about my health, but this is the anger that goes because so many of us do ride dirty.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And when we are riding dirty because of how much insurance costs, that's going to lead to so many tickets, because driving with a suspended license is the ticket you definitely don't want.
Definitely about to get. And it can lead to a negative experience with the law enforcement officer, right? Because they like, pull over, let me get your license, insurance. And as soon as they say license, insurance, registration, your heart just drops right down to your stomach, because you like, I ain't got no damn insurance. You have to make a decision
of telling him, hey, I'm bold or not. And then you know that your fate of being arrested or not is in their hands.
Right. And then that's an economic crime right there, right? Because it's like, if I had money, I would have insurance. A wealthy person wouldn't get this ticket because they can afford the insurance. So now you, in effect, penalizing me for being poor, right? Yeah. Penalizing me for not being able to afford car insurance. It's not the fact that I don't want car insurance. Everybody would like to pay for it, but I just can't fucking afford it.
Yeah, especially here. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, let's put it like this. When it was the goofy driver responsibility fee,
right?
I almost don't know. It's hard for me to find a black man that wasn't paying that shit, bro.
That driver responsibility fee was crazy. I was mad as hell. And that was under Granholm.
Yeah, I know.
So, we getting it from all sides.
So, as you were talking, and I know we went deep into some Michigan shit about this, but people need to understand it's all interconnected, because these laws impact the timid natures of us not standing up for our rights. So what would you tell those young dudes right now
how to stand up for their right?
riding bold, that may be facing that? What's the
riding bold?
What's the back and forth with police?
If you riding bold, if you riding without car insurance, you don't have much of a. You got to take the ticket and move on. But now, if these, because what else can you do? You don't have insurance. That's a sad case.
How many?
But somebody who's totally abiding by the law, right? Yeah. And they find themselves being stripped out of their car without probable cause. Because once you say I don't have car insurance, that's probable cause for an arrest. Yeah. Right? That's an arrestable offense. Yeah. So if the police officer says step out of the car, I would say step out of the fucking car. Right? But if you got license, insurance, registration, and everything, and they talking about step out the car, I wouldn't train my child, my black boy, nor my black girl to say, officer, put your hands right here, keep your hands. Officer, please don't kill me. I'm subject to all the whims of this person because you have all ultimate authority over me. No, I'm not teaching my kid that. I'm teaching my kid to question that power, question that authority. Listen, these are my rights, and assert her authority over this civil servant. You feel me? Saying, hey, these are my rights. She may end up face down in the street, but that's the price that you have to pay for asserting your freedoms and your liberties. You understand what I'm saying? Do not be timid in the face of harassment or injustice. We cannot be. We cannot be. We have to stand up. We have to stand up to injustice, right? Being timid, I'm of the belief that shit is for the birds and it does not work. You have to stand up in the face of injustice. That's the only way to get over. I don't believe that power is peacefully transferred. I don't think you can peacefully march your way into a better position with your oppressor. I believe that it has to be fought for. And I believe that black people have been fighting. I don't think that it gets the credit. Since our sojourn in this country, I don't believe we've been fighting from the beginning, non-peacefully, with arms. I'm talking about from all the way from the Nat Turners, but they don't get, it's not in the history books, and people don't, they just ignore it. But we've been fighting from the beginning.
Yeah.
We've been fighting and rioting
we
and tearing shit up since we've been here.
We were fighting during the Middle Passage.
Right. One of the biggest, one of the biggest reasons that I believe for the emancipating black people from slavery was the fact that there was so much revolution going on in the South. That was one of the things, right? It was the economic portion. I think it's a multifaceted issue. So, but one was it was a lot of unrest in the South.
And you needed the black soldiers.
Right. You need the black soldiers, but black people were, the Nat Turners of the world were rising up.
Yes.
There was word coming back from Haiti, the way I understand it. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I can be. I've been before. But word was coming from Haiti, who had already revolted and taken over the Haitian Republic, right?
Yeah.
And word was getting back to America that these black folks had taken over this island. And there was unrest. People wanted to be free. And you had abolitionists, and you had people you had Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, plus not just the Underground Railroad, there were other methods of escaping. The railroad is just to condense our history down to the smallest nugget, but there was people were mailing themselves to the north into Canada in boxes, like literal UPS, mail myself in a box to the north. There was the Harriet Tubmans of the world. So there was rioting, there was looting, and I believe that contributed to
a response
the freedom that we see. The same thing with the threat of violence when in '67, when the riots, we had the peaceful protests with Martin Luther King, but there was also uprisings in '67 and '68 when black people were tearing shit up.
And let me say this, as I've talked about a lot of these topics, like I say, it's surprising sometimes when people see me as so militant, but America has a violent culture. It's always responded best to violence, especially violence towards property.
Right.
When you think of the foundation of this nation, the Boston Tea Party, the American Revolution,
right?
Which, in some ways, I think America was kind of wrong, but the foundation is property and violence. America's never been really moved by things outside of that.
Right.
Like so like you think of like Roe v. Wade and the way that abortion clinics were bombed. And I mean, even to this day, like it's like now we got to talk about this shit. We can't skirt around this.
Yeah.
Like violence has been something that we've responded to. Right. Now, the question I have with everything that's going on is always the question that I think people are trying to move past it right now. It's fast. It's like, so what do you do when the looting stops? What do you do when things stop burning?
Personal responsibility.
And I personally kind of the tough thing is to highlight on what people see as violent and negative in this. Mm-hmm. And it's such an iota of the bigger story.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, to say that guy is just one cop.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Just shows the blind nature of the media that's complicit with police brutality and murder.
Yeah.
Are many of these politicians that are complicit with police brutality and murder.
Yeah.
And it's got to be tough to be a politician right now, because I really think politicians need to shut the fuck up and be like, I understand why people are doing this.
Yeah. See, people, and when I have these conversations, then people are like, well, what's the solution? That's a loaded question to me, because it's like people want it to be like, okay, well, the solution, this singular thing will have. Well, let's elect a black president or make a Biden take a black nominate a black woman, and then that'll be the solution. That's not I tell people, man, this is very, very complicated.
Yes.
And this is it's not black or white. This is many
Yeah.
shades of gray in this.
Yes.
And it's a multifaceted problem.
Yes.
And it's going to take a multifaceted solution. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying? So it's going to be the peaceful protest. I'm not the one that's saying, no, fuck that, stop peaceful protest. We need that. That's a
Yeah.
form, because everybody's not going to take to the street with arms. But also, those brothers out there, untrained, just mad as hell
Yeah.
about what's going on, and they
Yes.
got is a brick and a window. We need that too.
But it's always been like that.
Right.
Everybody was not
Right.
Dr. King
Right. Everybody not Dr.
or
King.
Malcolm X
Right.
or everybody does mega.
We need
Everest.
brothers like you
Yeah.
who take to the airways.
Yeah.
We need brothers like
You that are in
business owners, right?
Yeah.
We need our politicians.
Yeah.
We need personal responsibility. Raise your kids right. We need more attorneys, more doctors, more architects. It's a multifaceted issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take many different things. It's not gonna just be one. It can't just be one thing.
Solution.
That's why you won't see me condemning peaceful protest, but you also will not see me condemning
Join
a brother
them.
with a
Yeah.
damn brick and throw it through a window,
I
because you need that. I believe, and we can have an argument. I'm sure people that would love to argue with me. You need that brick in the window. You need that threat of violence.
I think so too.
You need that threat
I
of
think
violence.
so too.
I
I
think
mean-
every black man, every black person should
Yeah.
have. Every black person should have a legal firearm.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But like I've said to people, I've never seen a cop charged, and I still kind of don't like that they don't have the perp walk with him. They
Right.
don't have the video of him being charged.
Right.
But after that Target burned down, next thing you know, that guy got charges.
Oh,
The prosecutor, Derek got charged. Derek Chauvin or whatever got charges after that Target burned down.
Yeah.
And let's put it like this: charges. I've never seen charges move that fast on a cop, and that's the other problem. And you have a legal background, so before we get to that, why are police protected so much? Under the assumption, two things: one, cops have the courtesy and the privilege of you need to not just prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which what we have as citizens with criminal. You have to prove intent,
Right.
when a cop commits a criminal violent
That he
act,
intended to
which
kill
is beyond reasonable. That's not reasonable doubt.
Right.
Because how do you prove intent?
But the thing about police officers is that they are entrusted to use. I don't know if entrusted is the word, but they
have the discretion to use force.
use certain force. Like we give them
the right
to use a certain amount of force.
But that is the problem right there.
And the question starts becoming, did he use too much force? And then that's why you start seeing police officers not being charged or being acquitted, because it's like, did he cross that line of excessive force?
But see, this is the thing.
Because a police officer has the right to slam this person on the ground in certain circumstances. I don't know.
No, they have the right to shoot you.
Right.
That's why they have guns and bullets.
Right.
They have the right to slam you down. They have the right to chokehold and apprehend you, arrest you, to detain you. And this is the thing when it comes to excessive force. That's still by discretion. Unlike most things that we have as citizens, we don't have discretion. If me and you were just if me and you were for whatever reason playing with firearms and I shoot you, I'm gonna be apprehended without people thinking to themselves, let's gather all the evidence to figure out the intent and how we can charge him.
What about this Ahmaud Arbery situation, though?
That's another one of those
Like, that was glaring.
tragic situations.
Right. But the injustice is that it took, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong again, 70 days or 70 some odd days
Took about 2 months,
to charge these people who probably would have never been charged if
not
there
the
was
video
in the surface and didn't go public, right?
Yes. That's
that
more
is
disturbing.
so unjust. And these were not officers, or they were former. One was a former officer, I believe, but this is not an officer who's entrusted with the power to use force. You should have never been.
And that has a Detroit tie. I went to high school with one of the lead attorneys that's going to be on that case. Deidre, shout out Deidre.
Really?
Stay strong. I sent her Instagram like, yo, let us know what's happening, because I know how those Georgia courts can be based on even who their governor is.
But the thing about it is...
And that was some bullshit vigilante justice. That's
right.
just like the George Zimmerman shit.
Right. Are we ready for a non-guilty verdict on either or both of those cases? Then what happens? Do we march? Because you gotta understand also, people are saying, okay, we understand these peaceful protests, but the violence has to stop. Oh, well, 6 months ago, a year ago, Kaepernick was demagogued and was demonized for planting his knee in the ground peacefully during a football game, fired from his job, and called an asshole or son of a bitch in public from the president of the United States, the highest office in the land, with the bully pulpit, peacefully protesting the same exact thing that we are dealing with right now. And you're saying, well, we respect a peaceful protest. Well, how much more peaceful does it get? But he's demonized and fired from his job for peacefully protesting. So now here we are in the streets tearing shit up, and we got your attention. They're talking about bringing the army and all this shit. I know. Don't you wish that you had Colin Kaepernick peaceful protests right now?
Yeah.
And that you would have heard his cries. But the problem, it always harkens back to, we're fighting for equality.
Yeah.
That's the shit that makes you say, you know what, burn it all down. Because the fact that you're fighting for equality, to me, I don't know if it's making sense to the broader community, but equality, to be treated equally, that shit is just like, it's mind-boggling. You shouldn't have to fight for fucking equality. Now, if I was fighting, we can fight to take over you and to destroy you and to take property from. We're just fighting to be left alone and to be justly treated under these laws, to have the expectation to come home alive and live peacefully in this nation. But
now that kind of leads to the next question, and I want to get over to the firearm point too, and this is a great conversation. Definitely a lot of great information and emotion. I knew that you were the first person that I wanted to talk to about this. So thank you for coming in. Black business owner right now.
right.
As someone that has dealt with being shut down from making money by the police.
Right.
And it's still like a static situation, because in my opinion,
Right.
I remember when you first told me you guys got a ticket, my first thing was, I've dealt with this before. I guarantee that somebody in this neighborhood works for the city.
Okay.
But
right.
someone in that community weaponized the police against your business.
Yeah. Like that white lady tried to do in the park. See, we can go on and on
Yes.
about this shit. This shit is ridiculous.
So conducting business in the city as a black entrepreneur,
right.
in a city that's 85% black,
right.
what recourse do we have when dealing with police officers, or what recourse do we have against people that do weaponize the police? Like how should that person function? What advice do you give to that person? Because with what you're doing, it's a lot of people that want to do something like that in many communities, as we can drive through so many neighborhoods and not even touch a black business in Detroit.
So what is my advice to a black business owner who's dealing with that situation that we dealt with?
Yeah.
Make sure you have all your ducks in a row, where just like as black people, we have to just go over and beyond, so that we can't, when they come to you, you got all your shit. Just like the insurance situation. Just make sure you have your insurance. As a business owner, make sure you got your business licenses. Make sure you're handling your business properly. And when they step to you, you got all your stuff.
Now, what if the argument becomes, I don't want to do that because I'm living in unequal place. It's already unjust. We don't have equality, so I don't want to pay into the system.
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I don't have the answer for that.
A
How do you
response to
insulate
that.
yourself from the system?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So, with that, what about when we weaponize the police against each other? What's the recourse in that?
That's such a sad situation when we
And
weaponize
it happens.
it. Yeah.
It happens. It happens in families.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna call the cops on you, as
Yeah.
we saw that man in the park, like you said, bird
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
call the cops on you in
Yeah, but
to a black person is like basically pulling a gun on a person.
yeah, when are you saying when we weaponize black folks weaponize the police against other black folks, or when a white woman weaponizes
Let's
the
go
police
black
against
to a black, the situation you dealt with. Because I remember when you
Right.
told me what you were dealing with. Like, man,
Man.
I can't believe the cops got some tacos earlier and now we getting
But
a
that's
ticket.
that's
And then the cops got, and then I told you the same day, I was like, I guarantee it's somebody that works in the city that has a relationship with the police that didn't even want to have the dignity to walk across the street and talk to you guys like
Right.
human beings.
Man, so that's a good question, because that's an inter-community kind of question. You understand? So
Yeah. It's almost
That's something
like
that we
as
gotta
a black
take-
person, when do you call the police? That's kind of like a deeper question, like
right, say, when do you call the police as a black?
on someone else.
When there's some violence going on, or when you feel like you're threatened. But you call the police on some people that's selling tacos, that seems a little bit,
Not even a little bit. That shit is extremely excessive.
Right, somebody
I think
selling
when you can at
tacos.
least, I think step one should always be to interact with.
And like I said, in our situation, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of fixing up your community, because this was a vacant and abandoned building sitting on your corner. We livened it up. We opened it up. We activated the space. Now we're selling tacos, which we didn't have the license to sell tacos. And a community member felt that was inappropriate.
Well, I'm gonna say this for you.
Black
At
person.
Detroit is different. Don't do that dumb shit. You need to interact with our community.
Yeah.
As black people, we should never be afraid of other black people, especially if they're.
You
doing
saying don't do
something-
that shit, don't call the police.
You should, step one should be to walk across the street and say, "Hey,
Right. Because
I
I know
work the midnight shift," or whatever your gripe is.
Yeah. Because the tacos couldn't have been his problem, right?
Yeah, whatever the gripe is,
Right.
You walk across the street and you share that. Hey, you bring in more traffic. People are parking in front of my house, and it's like, now we can interact with you, and we can address what that is. I think we can come together as a community. So that what I ask you this question is because it's been more talk about the anti-police movement going on, where we just as a community solve our own problems. And that's why I asked you this, because this is like one of those steps. It's like bringing in an outsider to solve an internal problem,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Whereas I really do think that he could have, the neighbor could have approached you all like men and resolved the situation.
He could have. He chose not to. So
So that's where I mean, what I know for you is definitely more direct and personal, but what should that course of, you know what I'm saying, like that course of action when that happens, when you're dealing with that, because that happens to, the reason I knew that was what happened, because it happened to some businesses I've been working with before.
But you know what? That's an inter-community problem. Like that's where we talking about inside our own community.
Yes.
Like how do we? Because a lot of stuff, and I'm conservative in this, like personal responsibility in our community. Like we can't expect everything to be coming from another community.
Yes.
Oh, stop beating on me. Stop police. Stop. That's the answer to. Okay, that's a portion of it. The state. Stop treading on me, right?
Yeah.
But also, brother, don't kill your other brother. That ain't got nothing to do with this police officer. And I'm talking about black on black, right?
Yeah.
Crime. When a brother kill another brother. I can't play. I've racked my brain on how to make that into the white man's fault. But brother, I can't blame the white man for another black man killing another black man. Or another black man calling the police or weaponizing the police on some brothers selling tacos across the street, right?
And I think with both conflicts, we can
that's
have
personal responsibility.
We can have. I think with both conflicts, we can have ways to de-escalate, because that's the challenge. Also, even with as I watch these peaceful protests, I think to myself, the training and my interactions with police. It's rare that I've run. It's rare I've run across officers that de-escalate situations, and they're usually the cream of the crop. They're usually like a spokesperson. They carry themselves in such a way where it's like, okay, almost. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase. That's the type of cop that can arrest you without handcuffs. I mean, you laughing, but it's real.
Yeah,
you know,
they good at their job.
It's rare. You know, because they know how to calm crowds. I usually see better security guards like this.
Okay.
Where I've seen people serve in a security capacity at clubs or strip clubs or concerts or festivals where, you know, static kind of starts. Yeah. For whatever reason.
And they know how to de-escalate.
And they know how to, hey, yeah, you know, let's.
Right.
Versus, I hate to say it, usually in the security
would you ever consider having a police officer on Detroit is different?
I'm open to it. Yeah.
So because they can bring a perspective, like
they can definitely bring a perspective where I really do think some of this, you know, but thinking outside of bringing people inside our community, we need resolutions inside our community that can resolve these challenges. Yeah, because a lot of the challenges,
we have a lot of challenges.
The challenges
that's not outside challenges that are inter.
Yes. Which I connect, I guess I'm Dr. Amos Wilson, the hysteria that we live in America as black people. It's in a macro connected to being in America, right? Living in this system that wasn't designed for us. Right. But now how we personally enact it, yes, it's more personal accountability. So I guess you could look at it like I'm placing blame on white people for black people's internal problems. I don't see it like that, but I do think that we're in a hysteria and chaos just due to that makeup. And as you went to that, let's talk about safety and protection. You said firearm is something that you think.
Yeah, I believe that every black man should be able to protect himself and his family. Not just black man, every black man and woman should have firearm and be able to protect themselves in situations like what we're going through now, and legally carry and confidently carry their firearms, not timidly carry their firearms, openly. Understand the law, the Second Amendment right to carry a firearm and own a firearm to protect themselves. I think that is something that we should do, and know how to use them and teach their kids how to use them. I believe that's the two things. I believe every black person should own property and firearm.
Now,
two things.
When you talk about that, we're gonna speak about one of our mutual heroes, Tupac Shakur. Right. Tupac Shakur, like people know, it's like the classic legend of him. Yeah. Tupac Shakur saw a black man being assaulted by police officers.
Exactly.
Pulled over to the side and shot those officers.
Two officers. Right.
Tupac Shakur was being represented by one of my mentors from Detroit, Chokwe Lumumba, for that case. Shout out that whole Chokwe Lumumba family. Right now his son is the mayor in Jackson, Mississippi, Republic of New Africa. Read up on Chokwe Lumumba if you're listening to this. Do you think as more black people are armed, it will stop incidents like that? Do you think people will have the guts to do something
whether it
like
stops incidents like George Floyd's incident?
Yes.
Will it stop it? I don't know. Okay. But will we be able to defend ourselves better in those situations? Yes.
Okay.
Right? If because the young man, I saw the young man who actually, the guy who was in the background doing all the talking. I don't think he was doing the filming, but the young brother who was doing the most talking in the George Floyd situation, incident.
Murder. Yeah.
I heard him talking. I saw him on CNN. He bawled, crying. And I took that to mean how he felt he was affected by the fact that he felt powerless and unable to help this brother. That's what I took out of it. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the reason that he was so emotional about it, but that's what I took out of it. And the brother, I heard him express how he understood martial arts, and he was into martial arts, and how he understood chokehold. The brother understood chokeholds and all of this. And I took it as he was in some way blaming himself for not intervening. And as I move around the community and talk to people, everyone's saying like, man, if that was me, I would have done something. ABC. Which is,
we don't know.
And even for myself, so it's not like I'm attacking people. Shit, man, I'm scared as hell of the police, man. Right? So like I get tremors when they got guns, and if I do go attack this person, I'm definitely in jail, if not dead. I got kids. All these different things are going through my head. So I think it takes a very courageous person to intervene. But if we have our firearms, and we aren't timid in the face of the state, and we're not timid in the face of law enforcement, civil servants, right? Yes. And as I harken back to what I said before, we assert our right, we assert our authority, we assert our citizenship and our right to be treated well. We assert our Second Amendment. So we're in the George Floyd situation. We have a multitude of community members with firearms saying, this is wrong, get up. Yeah. Stop. Right? Yeah. You're in our community and you're not going to, like the women who came up to me at the park, if for everybody who's watching and who remember the woman, instead of coming up with a camera, you come up with a camera and a firearm. Yeah. So if you're messing with my brother, I understand my right. I understand, and I'm not scared to use my right. I'm not, oh my God, because we raise our children to be afraid of the people who are supposed to be serving and protecting them, which is a backwards thing. So the officer is paid to serve me and protect me, but I am afraid of the officer because my mom is so afraid of me not coming home alive that she raises me and trains me to be timid in the face of their authority, right? Yes. As opposed to raising me to be courageous and assertive in these interactions with authority. It's raising me to understand that these persons are here to serve you and to protect you, and they work for you. And if they get out of line, you have recourse through your Second Amendment, hopefully not, but the courts and blah, 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 right? All these different mechanisms in our society, understanding that and utilizing that, as opposed to saying, well, don't even forget your power as a citizen, just
try to survive.
Just try to survive, which I believe is backwards thinking. And that harkens back to Willie Lynch and so forth, where that you take the father out of the equation, right? Because he has the male testosterone and aggression. You take him out, and he doesn't have the ability to raise the child to be proud and to take care of himself. And the mom, being one who is more content and raises the child to survive in the environment, right? Mm-hmm. At least that's what I took out of Willie Lynch, is you take the father out. You have the mother raise the child. The mother raises the child to survive and to be submissive to the law, to master in this case, but to law enforcement and so forth. And so that lineage, I believe, still resonates to an extent. We hear about that all the time. Black people on television all the time, and I reject it. This is what I see on television. I teach my son how to interact with police officer. And it's never tell that police officer to back the fuck up. This is my right. This is my firearm. This is my Second Amendment right. This is my First Amendment right to say whatever the fuck I want to say. Well, not whatever I want to say, but it's my First Amendment right to speak my piece peacefully,
without threatening
you. It's my Second Amendment right to carry this firearm.
Yeah.
And there's whatever other right to protect myself. If you are a rogue cop and you're taking me to the ground, and it's this other brother's right to get this officer off of George Floyd.
What Tupac did.
Before he kills him.
What Tupac did.
But we don't assert our right because we're raised in fear.
And I was too. And it's still in the back of my mind.
I'm scared as hell.
Like when you just told the story about the white cop pulling up, because it's more, and I've seen it, it's never just one cop car.
Right.
I mean, I think, especially when I was younger, I remember an incident where I'm leaving a King Cast football game.
Right.
And this is another thing where you talk about the black cops.
Right.
I mean, our high schools have gang squad units inside high schools. Gang squad.
I know.
And if you're not from an urban city and you're unfamiliar with what gang squad is a gang. You know? These officers are not interacting with students
there's
hey
nothing
man,
friendly about
let
these guys.
Let me get you to class. What's going on? That you want to play a pickup game?
Black cops.
Gang squad.
Very scary.
Is a military-based unit of policing.
Right.
It's under SWAT team.
Man, the way
inside a high school. Inside every DPS high school was gang squad. So gang squad, it was usual high school type fight. And after the fight, we were walking up to Coney Island, kid shit in Detroit. Got pulled over by one cop. One cop became 15 cop cars. All drawn on me. We're 15 years old. It's me, my friend Lo, and his boy. All three of us. For the three of us, 15 cop cars, 30 cops. All because somebody, may have punched a kid in the audience. And gang squad is, like we say, a military-based unit. So they're coming out, some had the riot gear helmets on. They have all the tactical weapons on top of their guns.
Right.
This isn't and yelling, get the fuck on the ground and shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
So this
rights
situation
are
happens
out of the
me
window.
At 15. So it's like, with what you say is so revolutionary. If I'm to respond like what you say,
right,
under my First Amendment right, no, I got the right to stand here.
Right.
And he didn't shove me, but he pushed me down.
Right.
Because my homeboys was like, shit, hands behind their head, laying on the ground.
Exactly.
And everybody is looking.
Right.
And we obviously weren't those people. My parents, we went to, I remember this incident. I took the cop's badge number, and like usual, the cop that did all the fuck shit and yelled at me and had me get the fuck on the ground and put the gun to the back of my head.
Right.
He walks away, and they scurry off. And then comes the old black guy cop that's still there with us, like, hey, it's crazy stuff out here. Hopefully you don't take it to heart. And I was like, man, give me his badge number. What precinct he at? Me, my mom, my dad all went to the precinct on Belle Isle when it was still active because it was from King High School. Had a conversation where my dad just spoke to the cop about that whole shit. And it was like surreal because I'm still shook the fuck up.
Your dad went and talked to the officer?
He went to talk to that officer.
And what was the response? Did they peacefully talk or did they?
My dad was shouting. I may need to bring him on the cell more. My dad was shouting. He was angry. The old cop that calmed things down was kind of giving his perspective. That officer apologized, but they also kind of came from the, kids is crazy these days kind of perspective. As if, yeah, that's fucked up. Your son had to go through that, but you got to understand the type of animals that's out here in Detroit. That's how we got to deal with people. That was pretty much the discussion from that.
Yeah. It's like they try to use inner city violence to justify
their violence,
the usurpation of rights and liberties.
Yes.
Right. So because the environment that I'm living in is in ways violent, that me as a peaceful person, I just have to, my rights and liberties go out the window. I don't have the same rights as someone who grows up in a upper middle class neighborhood where there aren't violent crimes committed, or there's less crime. So me as a peaceful person, I'm not doing anything. I don't have rights.
Yeah.
Or my rights are limited in a way because my environment is crazy. That's fucked up.
And I question that even, but you know me, I mean, in my nationalism, I think it's a context for the violence that happens over here, because I'm very community based.
Right.
I mean, it's on my current block where Detroit is different is. I mean, I don't want to incriminate nobody, but it's shit that happens.
Right.
But it's a context for me knowing what it is.
Yeah.
And like I tell most people, if you don't get in this shit usually doesn't come your way.
Uh-huh.
So I actually think our community is a lot safer. And in some ways, I feel safer in the city because I don't have to deal with white police officers.
Right.
I got a homegirl that stay in Ann Arbor, and I was just going to one day I was dropping off something with her, and I was telling her, I was like, you don't even know how scary sometimes it is coming to visit you, because sometimes your white neighbors will look out the window and be looking at me get out the car. And I'm like, and I mean, and she's sort of, you know, she's hip to some of the understanding of being a black man, but I'm like, a white woman that's middle-aged looking out the window of me getting out the car in the suburbs is some of the scariest shit ever. Because if anything happens, I am now the reason for anything happening.
Yeah. Well, that's the United States. That's the environment we live in, because that white woman is looking at you like, I am so scared of him.
Yeah.
Right? In many situations, like, I am so scared. I crossed the street when the scary black man walked my way. And you looking at her like, I'm not interested in you at all.
And I've been a lot of places. New Orleans, shit, my family in Cincinnati. I pull up on the porch and it's 7 dudes outside with no shirt on.
Yeah.
Blasting music, and maybe one got a pistol on the table.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I got a context for, I ain't fucking with them. I'm cool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I have a context of, this is safe. White lady looking through window is not.
Right. Yeah.
You know, black dude on the porch shooting dice with a gun on the table. Oh,
safe.
This is cool. I know the culture of this.
Right. Brother with the gun on the table.
Yeah.
And weed out, which is legal now, which is crazy. That's a whole nother Detroit is different.
But in that, there are a lot of this whole concept of, can you have a gun and use marijuana? It's a lot of that bullshit going on.
Yeah.
That does exist. And that's another thing where I don't smoke. I don't smoke, but I do recognize the way that that laws have criminalized marijuana against black people.
Yeah, and it's people still serving time for marijuana laws, and this shit is crazy. So, but Tamir Rice was the young boy that I was trying to get in Ohio, right?
Tamir Rice.
So I'm sorry for that,
but
just to clear that up.
But like you say, like, I mean, it's what's labeled as violence in my community. I don't even necessarily know if I see it as violence.
Yeah.
Even when they broke in my house, when the guys, I saw the 4 men that were in my house. When they saw I was there.
Oh, you saw?
They were in my crib, man. When they were in my crib and they saw that somebody lived there, they turned away and went to probably to find an abandoned house to try to strip it. You know?
Man. See?
But they didn't, it wasn't a, you know, wasn't no tussle, wasn't no nothing.
Yeah.
And I was so in a haze because I'm waking up at like 2 a.m.
Would you have shot at them if?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't think so. I think a firearm in that situation would have made the situation worse because there was so many of them.
Yeah.
And one of them having it.
But are you opposed to shooting at some black men that are breaking into your shit?
as of now, I'm single. I live by myself. I don't have I think things would be different if I were married, if I had a child at the house. But as of now, I think that I can, being me by myself, yeah, that would be tough. That would be that way.
What about your things, your property?
Yeah, it's like, fuck all that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
because that's a thing in the city too, and that's where I start talking about like everything is not external. Some of this shit is internal, right?
yeah,
People break into my house. You know, I flip houses, so
Yeah.
I'm a real estate developer, so I have houses, and then as soon as I put stuff in there, sometimes
it's a
people in
security
our
thing.
community take stuff out of there.
sometimes
But
it's the
maybe-
person that you
maybe-
paid to help put the stuff in there.
Exactly,
You know?
but maybe that happens in other communities too. But I'm not talking about other communities. I'm talking
we're
about
talking about
in
ours.
my community.
Yeah,
A brother stealing from me.
yeah.
You know, just like a cop busting my ass, a black cop busting my ass. These are inner community things. Like, so culturally, we need to work on some things. We're not a perfect.
I think so much of this still deals with scarcity too. I mean, because people are doing the survivalist type shit
Right.
with, you know, at wit's end.
Yeah, but we're at
I mean,
war.
so many of us are not choosing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may be some people to choose to strip houses, but I think it's going on more often because it's also an economy that can't exist. That, you know, that I think can be that can be nipped at the bud on the top. Like, you know, that I think you can track, and we know a lot of this copper, a lot of this steel, a lot of the water tanks, a lot of the furnaces are being sold under the table.
Yeah, it
And
is.
they know where some of these under
But
the
we
table
have to
places
take
are.
personal responsibility. Like, I'm not the person that's everything's external to us. There are things that we
I
can
agree.
do to better our community.
I
Like,
agree.
people ask me all the time. I'm like, man, listen, let's just start with not killing each other as much. Let's bring the murder rate down and see how much that pushes us forward as a community.
Which I believe,
Because
my
we kill each
context
other.
But my context of guns are like, different people see guns differently. I think guns
Right.
are tools used to kill.
Right.
You know, that's my interpretation of what a
Okay.
gun is. So with a gun, now we're walking through, and you know, I'm not the most experienced.
Right.
I'm not a gun guy.
Right.
But with the gun, I guess now we need to go through what is your moral compass? What are the reasons to kill somebody?
Right.
And I don't know. I definitely think being the incidents where I've seen murder happen and know of murder happening, a lot of it is not in the logical space, and it's more a lot in the emotional space.
Yeah.
But still, I think if you logically already kind of set up your moral ground of these are the reasons why I would kill, we're probably making I think that will lower that response of people killing, because a lot of the murders that I've seen, most just in my opinion and know of, a lot of ego has to do with it.
Yeah, I agree. And
a
then,
lot of ego, a lot of usually situations with where men and women somehow or women are involved.
right.
The senseless murders,
Ego,
I should say.
and like you say-
it's less. It has a whole lot less to do with anything about protection or safety.
That's true. And then my philosophy that every black man should have a gun, own a legal firearm. What does that do to the murder rate? Does my philosophy or theory that every black man should own a gun, does that increase the murder rate that I want to go down?
I think
you
in
got me
some ways
thinking
it'll
about
raise
things,
it, in
right?
some ways it'll lower it. But I think it's also a check and balance. I assume so many people in Detroit already have guns, whether they be legal or illegal.
Right.
I go into most situations assuming people have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a discourse or disagreement with a man,
Yeah.
and this is back to like some of those. We had a class like this back in middle school. What's that? Conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But real conflict resolution. I mean, it was middle school, so we didn't really get into what real conflicts are.
Right.
But these conflicts usually tied to some type of insecurity
Okay.
that we have. So it's like, how do you how do you resolve this conflict but still have this conflict?
Okay.
And you know, like people say, like, damn, you gonna kill somebody over $50? The $50 is not why he's shooting him. It's the principle of the guy feeling as though his interpretation of me is the person that he can disrespect. I feel disrespected.
Yeah.
I feel like I was disregarded. I've looked to interact with him multiple times, and now I see him at the cookout, and he walks up and says hey to me, and doesn't even acknowledge the $50 he owes me.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's shit like that I've seen where it's like, damn, he got shot over $50. Like when you hear about it, it's like, yeah, he got shot over $50, but no, he didn't get shot over $50. He got shot over the ego and the insecurities, but furthermore, the other guy not having the communication skills to convey whatever it was. And sometimes the communication skills may be like, you know, for lack of better sense, you know, excuse my French, fuck that nigga, I ain't got to tell him shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that attitude has led to a lot of people I know getting shot.
Yeah.
Dead. You know?
Yeah.
Like, yo, man, he took your girl, and I'm going to wear these buffs. I don't care. You know, take the motherfucking buffs off. Which buffs are Cartier glasses that are very famous in the city of Detroit. And then it's like, I ain't taking this shit off for nobody. Bop. Now I'm snatching.
Robberies and all that. Yeah.
You know, so, but it's still the exchange of ego.
Mm-hmm.
Before, you know, I'm a firm believer in like possession. Take all of this stuff that's possessions. I can get this back.
So
I can't get my life back.
Yeah. Or you can't give that person their life back.
And then also we're relying on justice where, I mean, I've seen Hatfield and McCoy situations between families, especially you know, going to Northwestern, where it's like the most grimiest. I've seen situations where under principle, you know, as they say, if the shoe was on the other foot, they would accept it. Like, you know, child molesting, robbing, despicable human beings get murdered. But the family's like, you ain't doing that shit to my cousin. And then go back and want to kill a guy.
And retaliate. So
now we also have to accept that as well. Yeah. What are those reasons? What is the tenet that would make you say, this is a I want to use my firearm? Yeah. It could be, okay, I'm just going to use my firearm if somebody breaks in my house because I got my kids here. Yeah. It could be, I'm going to use my firearm if somebody, you know, threatens the life of my mom or my
a lot of people use children. A firearm in place of a good old-fashioned fist fight.
But it can't be that.
Right.
It can't be that.
It can't be that. It is that, though.
But that becomes the challenge, because if it is that, then now you end up with the tragedies that happen with
300 murders in Detroit.
You end up with the tragedies of ego.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, I agree. And a lot of those guys, sometimes, that I found, a lot of those guys are guys still, this is back to the whole looters, a lot of those guys are guys that aren't from Detroit.
Oh,
it's
looters,
the guy that grew up in Oak Park or Southfield but want to hang out on 7 Mile every day. He's the most dangerous guy ever. He's waiting for a reason to shoot somebody.
Right.
The guy that grew up on 7 Mile is probably going to be very peaceful. Because he has an understanding of the violence over there a lot more.
A lot of looters, what I've noticed all over the United States, are a lot multicultural.
Yeah. But
I want to say white, but they could be anything. But they're not all black.
They're not all black. But I'm saying just in the internal, back to this internal gun thing, I think it's very dangerous. Like some of the people that have, you know, that ego and something, it goes back to the ego and something to prove. Like from what I've seen, I'm speaking, especially in all my years in Detroit hip hop.
Right.
Those guys are very dangerous. The suburban black kid interacting with Detroit black kids, you know, they rarely walk away like me. Like, you know, kids will call me square. It's like, yeah, I'm square as hell. I don't smoke weed. I don't care.
You
can talk about me.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
Then you see the kids coming from outside. And
yes. They have the chip on their shoulder and something to prove.
Yeah.
Chip on their shoulder, something to prove is a bad mix for gun owner. that's male.
I agree.
Especially male gun owner,
But
probably
it's us
young.
turning those guns on ourselves. When I say I would like for every black man to have a legal firearm, it's not to turn it on your brother.
Yeah.
But is that what will happen? I don't know.
I think it can. But I
don't
also
know.
think
So
the
if
same way we
more brothers
fear
have-
police, it's also a fear of
But legal firearms, brothers might not use them the same way because they're tied and registered to you. So you'll be more careful. You should be more careful and cautious
but that's
about it. Because my goal, I really I care about black people, and I just I want us to kill each other less. I want to be killed by others less.
Yeah.
And I want to be respected. I want us to be respected, like those black women who approached us with the officers, who wanted us to she wanted some brothers that she saw in the playground to be respected and make sure that we were not being unjustly dealt with.
That's what's up.
And that's what I want. And maybe some of my theories may be not all the way fleshed out.
Yeah.
But because I don't want more brothers to have guns to use on each other.
Yeah.
But I do want more brothers to have more guns to assert their rights and privileges and freedoms as citizens.
Okay.
Without being scared or fearful to do so.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah.
Man, this was another great discussion. I'm happy that you were the guest that you were open to this. I'm definitely gonna bring you back as we talk from even the small business perspective.
Yeah, I would love that.
Doing business here, in all you do. But we're gonna definitely get you, man. How do people get in contact with you?
Oh, Flipaholic, FLIP_A_holic HOLIC on Instagram. That's how you get in touch with me. So stop on by the Flipaholic show and come rock with us. Yeah, I would love for all the Detroit is different crowd and family to come and follow the Flipaholic on Instagram. All things real estate.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Peace be.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.